Welcome, everyone. Welcome. This is your host, Jack H. I am broadcasting to you as ever from the North American headquarters of the Cheese Room Empire. And you might notice something a little bit strange. You might see a lighter than usual panel, and that's because we're missing a few of our compatriots over on the European continent and British Isles. And we don't know who or what might join during the show, but we've got to move forward. The show must go on, right, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, lighter in terms of UK, but strong in terms of the representation on the Yank side, as per usual. And if, that's what you thought you'd never see on the Cheese Room podcast, you probably were right. But it's happened today. And the Yanks have finally taken over. Your worst nightmares have come true. Cover your ears, cover your eyes. But yeah, I look forward to it. I get to also makes things simple. Just two Jacks, both. Yeah. It's actually just really the identicalness of it is great. So it makes things simpler. I look forward to it.
Yeah, and so Paul, I will say I do have a story about this kit. Let me just tell it right now. So this is the first time I've ever worn this kit. It's been hanging in the closet for almost a year. And the reason for that is I got it as a late birthday present from a colleague, a friend and colleague of mine, who I've been slowly converting to a football fan and a non-American football fan. He grew up playing football and wrestling and traditional American sports. He played in college, so he's a big jock. But I've gotten him into soccer over here, so that's great. And he's been nice enough to give me Spurs themed gifts. And for last year's birthday, a little late because of some timing, he got me this kit, which is great. The problem is that it has Mr. Kane on the back, and so it was towards the end of the season. I never threw it on, and of course, we all know what happened. He's no longer with the club. So I've never worn it until tonight. And I decided to throw it on as I was looking for what I wanted to wear because it's pretty warm here. It's about 22 degrees here. Windows are open. So I wanted something light. And I thought, now that Mr. Kane has another shot at Arsenal, I thought that I might bring on the good luck to see if we can't have Harry get some old love and put some behind Arsenal's net. That would be nice.
No, that's great. I have what kit do I have? That's slightly, unfortunate. I have a Perisic kit, even though I love, any player with an itch in their surname or last name. Perisic, of course, very short career and, I think did fine, but, kind of immemorable, you would say, for the most part for his time here. What else do I have that's kind of a bit awkward? I do also have a Harry Kane kit, kind of recent seasons, not of older seasons. I feel like a Kane kit's not that bad at the end of the day because it is a legend of the club, and you could see somebody rocking if somebody had a really nice old Kane kit from maybe one of his first breakout seasons, I think that'd be super.
Number
cool.
37.
Not even that, like even maybe his first season with the number 10, like one of the Under Armour kits, of the Under Armour kits. If you had that with the Kane, that'd be a super cool kid.
Absolutely.
That. But since it's a more recent season, a season or two before he left, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so this is the first time, and it may go back on the hanger, never to be seen again. We'll have to see. We got a lot of kits here. We've had my son had a good luck with picking kits. He got a Dyer kit after Dyer scored his debut goal, and that turned into be a good call. He then got Danny Rose, and he exploded after that. He's had a number of kits. We got a lot of them here in the house, but none of them really fit anymore for most.
I own a Richarlison kit, but I really always liked Richarlison before he'd even come to Spurs. That was part of the reason. And I've had a lot of motivational runs and speeches to myself with that Richarlison kit on because it did look a bit ridiculous to stare at during his various stages of being unconvincing.
Yeah. And I also have the old Holston retro kit with the collars and everything. So, all right, well, let's do our business here. We got some administrative duties here. I just want to remind everyone, the Cheese Room is a great place to join. We have a wonderful Patreon group. You see the website on the screen, as you can see. We've got exclusive content, we've got chat groups, we've got prizes and discounts, we've got merchandise, we got fantasy football, we even have a ticket share, which is probably one of the best things for those who are able to get to games. We often find people can't go and they always want to give it to a Patreon before they put it on the exchange if possible. So that's always a good deal. And then also don't forget one of our supporters went too far. Football Prizes. They've got a signed Vicario kit in the window there. You can see tickets are $3.95. There's 299 of them. This drawing is going to be March 19th, and Cheese Room patrons get a discount to purchase the tickets. So do hustle on over and check out Football Prizes. All right, and now the slide. This is what we're here to talk about. Probably we're going to preview the match tomorrow that I will not see live. I will be on the pitch myself. I have my own game that conflicts with the Tottenham game, so I will not be watching live. Hopefully, I can avoid the result before I get home, and I can put it on because I think it's on NBC here, so I should be able to record it as opposed to Peacock, which I have to wait for them to load the replay, which doesn't always work as well. So what about you, Jack? You watching home? You going to a bar? What are you doing?
Watch along duties as per usual over on the Irish Hotspurs. So I will be screaming or crying or making a mess of myself in some sort of fashion, likely in front of a fair amount of people. So yeah, that's my usual routine, which I enjoy on every facet of, but there are definitely some rough days when doing it. That's for sure.
Oh, maybe we should do a watch along of the Bayern Arsenal match.
That'd be fun. That would be fun. Everybody's going to be watching it. Everybody, no one's going to say they're not going to be watching it. Everybody is, even if they're at work or, they're going to keep an eye on the score. That's for sure.
That's right. The new Harry Kane team, the German Harry Kane team will dispatch of Arsenal. All right. So Fulham's an interesting. So no, before I get there. So this is some of the comments we've got from Tottenham. From Ange at the Tottenham press conference today, I believe. And he's got some nice things to say about Marco Silva and game at Craven Cottage. Sorry, English is losing me. I think that realistically, we should be expecting to win this, but the problem is Fulham does have some abilities. We talked about a little bit about the injuries. Mickey is not available. We're hoping that he's going to be back after the international break, but he did let us know that Richarlison probably will be available for selection. We'll get into the lineup in a little bit, Jack, to see whether we think he's going to come in and feature if he's fit. And then on the subject of Champions League, which we'll turn to later in the program, we definitely have it in our hands. We can't drop points against the rivals because if we don't, then we take fourth spot and don't have to worry about whether English teams do well in Europe. And I'd love to solidify fourth and not have to worry about English teams so I can root against West Ham and everybody else. That would be nice. And he also commented, he was asked about transfers and saying that making Champions League did not affect their targets whatsoever. Yeah. They know where they need to strengthen, whether we're in Europa or somewhere else. It doesn't matter that we're going after the same people. So, that's positive and good to hear. I hope that is the case because, as we know, we're not going to get into transfer stone, obviously, but we know where we need to strengthen. There's several positions, particularly from a squad perspective and maybe even from the starting 11 that we need to strengthen significantly. These are Fulham's most recent results. They had the great game away at United, picked up the victory. I don't know if you can call a 3-0 victory a smash and grab, but we're going to look at the stats a little bit of that game. And then the Wolves loss, and there's no shame in losing to Wolves, as any Tottenham supporter is well aware. But I always had this impression, it's funny because getting ready for the show, I was had this in my mind that Fulham was much higher up the table. And I realized Chelsea passed them. They're down in 12th. But to me, I feel like they play much better football than the 12th best team in the Premier League. What are your thoughts on Fulham?
I think, honestly, Fulham are your standard, typical mid-table club this season, where they are definitely better than the relegation sides or the teams that are even battling near that relegation, in the sense that you look at even those results there, they give everybody, for the most part, a good game. They rarely get walloped by teams. And also, for the most part, they've just kept their head above water and won a lot of the games or picked up points in a lot of the games that they probably should have. They've had, some pretty good scalps this season in terms of, I think West Ham was that big win. I think maybe they got a result. Yeah, like Man United. Yeah, of course you have it on screen right there. And I feel like Marco Silva, to be honest, I mean, I don't want to go down one of my Steve Hitchen sort of kind of type rants, but I'll be honest. Like Steve Cooper, for me, I think was one of the biggest, in my opinion, kind of frauds coming into the Premier League. I just felt like he was really hyped up to do exceptionally well with that Forest side. He had a lot of investment. And teams like Fulham with Marco Silva, if you remember correctly, when they were promoted, everybody was predicting them to go straight back down.
Yep.
And Marco Silva has kept them near what was, he got them close to European football last season. They just messed up, I think, at the very end of the season. They sort of did a bit of an Aston Villa where they kind of went like, this is the biggest game, of our history, and then ended up, I think, just completely not showing up on the day. But for the most part, I think Marco Silva is just a very smart manager. Like Ange Postecoglou said, knows how to organize his teams and has done really well with, I would say, is like you look at Fulham's team, like I don't think they have that much better players than Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Everton, Nottingham Forest, like those sort of sides. Like they've done, I think, exceptionally well. Marco Silva has with limited resources. And it's a pretty basic average team, I think. And he does pretty well with it. And he did last season. I think he's a good manager. And I wouldn't be surprised if this game is close because of it. He knows how to, keep Fulham in games.
Yeah. And this is the lineup they've had the last two outings. They haven't changed their 11, and has been commented and mentioned in the chat room, in the chat here. Jimenez is back. Mahina is back, so I would expect both of them coming into the side. They were on the bench, so that's what I would expect. That's going to be two changes, which does make them certainly a more difficult team to play against because I don't know that there's really a better defensive midfielder in the league than Mahina, and I don't think he's going to stay there, so we won't be playing against him much longer. And then Jimenez, if you're not careful, he can burn you, but he's never been the same player. But they
more
can't.
The Muniz guy is on fire right now.
Yeah, the question is whether Jimenez stays on the bench and Muniz stays in. It's going to be a question, but Pauline is coming in, so that'll be, I'd say, at least the one change. It's been mentioned already. I think it's Paul. Yeah, Paul's on my page. He rates the Yank at left back. Robinson has had a great season. Both of us who watch U.S. men's national team know how good he is. He's starting to pick up a few more assists. We'll look at some of their stats in a second for the Fulham squads, but he's picking up some more assists. If he gets his final ball better, he becomes one of the top left backs in the league because he can get up and down that flank, and he's very good defensively. He's a big lad. He's quick. He's comfortable on the ball. He's a good player, and that's going to be something that the right hand side. That's going to be Sarr and Porro and Romero is going to have to take a look at. Anyone on this squad that you think is worth pointing out and talking about that could be dangerous?
Just to stick on Robinson and throw it back at you, I feel like I've said it on our own channel in the Irish, but plenty of people I know label Robinson as actually the ideal Udogie backup / competition, whatever the right terminology is. I always get it wrong, but kind of player to bring in this summer because everybody's saying we do need to bring in another left back, and everybody said Robinson seems like a no-brainer because he's very similar to Udogie in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. No, he doesn't run the inside channel as much. He likes to stay on the flank, but he absolutely could. Oh, there's no question his ability. I think it's just more Silva's system or his preference. But from a technical and athletic standpoint, I don't think that there's any possibility. And I would love us to target Robinson. That would be wonderful. The other player, the Luton, especially if they go down, the Doughty kid that plays out on the left is also someone that would be quite good. Although I don't know that he wants to sit on. I don't think either player wants to be the backup. That's the problem. Is it's really tough to find high quality backups because they know, unless they've rated themselves, they think they can beat Udogie out. Then great, that's wonderful. And I didn't know this stat here. Thank you, Paul, for helping us out. I did not pick this up in the research. 8 consecutive lead victories away at a particular opponent for the first time in the club's history, which does go back a ways. So that's a pretty impressive stat, and that worries me a little bit because any Spurs fan sees that and they know instantly they start getting a little bit more concerned. But those are league games. That's not overall. So that's very impressive. Very impressive. So let's so I guess we'll get at least 1 or 2 changes from this lineup tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you're right. Paulinho comes in likely, potentially even for Harrison Reed. I'm not sure. They also have, what's his name, Tom Kearney. He's not a bad player. Sometimes has had some good patches for them, I believe, this season. And that front 3/4 of Pereira, Iwobi, Wilson, and Muniz, I don't see changing. That's kind of been the standard for them of recent, and those have been pretty good players. I mean, De Cordova Reed, maybe. He's a good impact sub for them. The thing is, though, despite how much I rate Marco Silva, and I think this Fulham side are actually quite average, like really, like, and they are maybe, dare I say, even outperforming a little bit. Like, I just feel like where they are is well where they should be. They shouldn't be any higher than where they are. I just think they're a basic team. And when you look at the majority of clubs and what they invest and everything, like Fulham haven't even invested that much. Like when you think about it, like in this team, this is majority, kind of, it's almost like Oakland A's, kind of like signings, that they kind of make that end up just keeping them above water and everything that it makes sense. And they have a solid team, but they have a very beatable team. And even people in the chat are saying that Spurs have a ridiculous record, like against Fulham for whatever reason. I kind of believe in that. I don't know if you do, but there is that sort of historical, like Chelsea, for example, like we still lost that game despite us dominating that for the first 20 minutes. They still always find a way to get a result against us, even when they're playing terribly and they have, everything going against them. I believe in that sort of curses and, just the way it is. And Fulham seem to be that way. They seem to be a team that just always never show up against Spurs or just kind of just get rolled over.
I'm of two minds. I don't understand how, people talk about it all the time. So-and-so hasn't won at so-and-so since, 1967 or, you get all these things and your first reaction is like, yeah, but the players are just completely different. The coaches are completely different. There's no reason why there should have these long trends across different, eras. But like you're saying, what explains the massive success Spurs have had over Manchester City for years? What's the reason why we can't get any result hardly ever almost against Chelsea? I mean, there's all sorts of examples. I mean, Fulham is just not been someone. He's got all 8 is either draws or losses, yet to get a win. So, I mean, there's certain matchups. And the interesting thing is I think that because stylistically, Silva is not afraid to play football. And so one of the things I'm looking forward to is a match where we are not hopefully encountering a team that's going to put 9-10 behind the ball, not venture out further. Well, that's my question to you actually is he going, because he will play. He wants, he wants his fullbacks to get forward. He will play forward and on the front foot if you give him the opportunity, but will he change? At 12th, they're so far, they're 35 points. They're so far from the drop that it's not even, it'd be an epic collapse for them to have to worry about relegation, but they're so far from Europe. It's not even funny. So I don't know what the point is playing a different system. What are your thoughts?
I just don't think hey, now the Yankfest is less saturated.
Someone had to come and put an end to this all-American love story. It couldn't go that far. I went and found my USA finest in the closet for this.
Appreciate it. I'll just quickly answer it, and then we'll get more, other opinions. Yeah, but I think honestly, I see Marco Silva setting deep and sitting back like Gary O'Neill did, like Sean Dyche did, and there are ways to beat Spurs in a convincing way without having to go toe to toe with them. I think Gary O'Neill and Sean Dyche have done that to us. Like they sat back, but when they did win the ball back, they hit us quickly on the counter, or they did other various kind of intricate things to cause us problems. I think Dyche, I remember, just kept hitting the ball like long into the channels. It was like get it launched, but not to Romero and to Van de Ven. It was like get it launched down Poro's side, get it launched down Udoji's side, and it caused us lots of problems. Gary O'Neill just kept transitioning, with certain players really quickly, and it kept hurting us. And I see probably Marco Silva's team doing something similar, where they are sitting back, but they'll find a way to hurt us on the counter, or just hurt us with set pieces or something like that. I think those three managers, these are like the smart kind of standard Premier League guys that do well with these type of average teams and can sometimes catch you out. But I don't expect it to happen just because, again, it's Fulham. Sorry, JP.
Yeah, JP, thanks for coming in and saving us from the All-American discussion, which I'm sure is going to lose viewers by the second. But this is the lineup that did lost to Wolves, but also beat Brighton 3-0. These are the stats. Kind of hard to see from where you are, but you can see that in the Brighton match, just looking at the XG alone, you could almost call this a smash and grab of 3-0 since the Brighton possession was all over them. The XG was even. Shots were even a little bit below. So they did really well. And then against Wolves, they had a lot more success, had much more goal chances. You can see they missed 3 big chances against Wolves. You could argue they should have won this game, and they should have lost the Brighton game. So kind of things even out a little bit. But these are the last 2 results. But now we expect Paulinho back in. We've got Willian, who's come available, it looks like, as well as Jimenez. What are your expectations for Fulham tomorrow?
Sample size of 2. Fulham love not having the ball, so they're going to really enjoy the game against us. I'm going into this one positive, as I have for most games, and waited to be disappointed. Willian being back is probably the biggest thing for me because he always seems to turn up against Spurs, which is frustrating given our history with him. Mm-hmm. But I'm expecting a really tough match. I'm expecting it to be similar to the first half against Villa for most of it, where we've got a lot of the ball. We're just trying to figure out how to break them down effectively. I fully expect for us to go in and win. I think we're good enough, obviously good enough to beat Fulham, but we have struggled with them recently. And the game against them earlier this season wasn't a gimme. So
that's right.
I'm expecting a tough match.
Weirdly enough, this season, it's not been easy with them against us as it has other seasons.
It's not been easy. They've not been easy for any team. They've put up some real shock results this year, and they've gone out and they've battered some decent teams as well. So, they're no mug team. Marcus Silva's done an amazing job with them, especially considering they lost Mitrovic, which was...
Yeah, that too.
They basically played around him last year. So, they're a decent team for them. And if we're not on it, if we don't take the chances that are offered to us, it's going to be a really tough game for us. But if we can, go back to kind of where we were at the start of last season... Sorry, the start of not last season. Let's never go back to last season. If we can go back to where we were at the start of the year when we were blowing teams away in the first half, then I think this will be a comfortable game for us. But the longer it goes on, the more we're going to have to kind of grind on them. But I said this after the sorry, I'm getting away from the topic. I said this after the Villa game. There's been a trend for us to really struggle in that first half as teams sit back on the low block. And we're spending that first half just tiring them out and trying to figure out where we're going to get success from. And then the second half, we've come out and we've been able to unlock them. And, as much as I'm more interested in the 3 points than I am what half we score goals in. So we just got to kind of sit and take our medicine and let the boys figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, Fulham have a decent goals against record. They've given up 44. The problem is that they don't score. You can see on the left-hand side here is their leading scorers. You've got 3 tied for first of the team goals at 5, and that's obviously Reed, Jimenez, and Muniz, who's really come on in the league. And they're, of course, Willian, the love to see him play. And then you got your assists on the right. As far as goals are concerned, I mean, we've got 3 players that have more than 5 goals. We've got 3 players that have more than 5 assists. In fact, they've got 7. So, I mean, we score a lot of goals. They don't give up too many, but they also don't score a lot. I expect them to try and keep it tight, but I also don't believe that, again, when we are on and playing our system reasonably well, they don't have the players, even with Paulinho, they don't have the players to keep us out the whole match. But I expect it wouldn't be surprising to see a very tight 2-1 type of game. I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. I don't expect to see what we saw last weekend, which is just running riot in the second half.
I remember Calvin Bassey having a howler in
Yes,
the home leg against us, but I think that was because he was a left-footed center back playing on the right in that game, whereas this time it will be Tosin Adarabioyo and him, who have, I think, played a bit better together. But there is maybe a hope that maybe he isn't as good on the ball as some people might think, and if the way that we play, we could play him under pressure again, and he just gives those incredible hospital passes, like he was doing in that game, that just kept feeding us so many chances.
Now, if you look at the pressing system last week against Villa, what was one of the keys was Sonny would be when the team was trying to build out, and Fulham will try to build out some. They're not going to just go long all the time. Sonny takes the goalkeeper out by bending his run. When the ball goes out to the center back on either side, he comes into the goalkeeper, bends his run to prevent the pass from coming back, forcing it into traffic, into the area where we want it. And then you get the midfielders coming up and the fullbacks coming up and with that press. I expect to see the same thing tomorrow, is a very high press, because I agree. I don't think their back line is not bad. It's just I don't see them as confident ball playing center backs. In my mind, I think they're a little inexperienced, and I think that's going to be one of the chances that we're going to have to get some wins high up the pitch and get into the area and get some shots off. So JP, I mean, Jack was saying he thinks they're probably going to sit deep, and I was wondering whether or not they really would, whether or not they might try to play, just because, again, they're safe from relegation. They're far away from the European spot. So this is a game where you can work on your system and try to improve your players against a really good side. Or do you think he's going to say, no, we still get money for finishing 11th versus 12th. So that's my job, is to get high up the table and get points. What do you expect to see from a tactical sense?
I expect a kind of like a medium rare, like a mid to low block. They're not going to be as deep back as probably Villa were, or who did we play before that? I can't remember. We've seen some teams where they're basically like parked on the edge of the 18-yard box, right?
Right.
That's not going to be Fulham, but it's certainly not going to be expansive. They'll sit in their own half and defend against us and try and try and break against us on the counter. And I think that works for them because they got the players to do that, and it's definitely going to work for their system. But it's not going to work for them on the day because we're going to batter them. I'm putting positivity out there every time I say something for Villa is going to work for them relatively.
Leno has been a bit of a Vicario for them, you'd say. Probably two of the best goalkeepers this season have probably been Leno and Vicario. I think even statistically as well.
I didn't look at it. Credit to an ex-Gooner, so Vicario has been the best goalkeeper this season.
Oh, easily, by far, easily.
Yeah, I mean that is always a concern if you have both two ex-Gooners on the pitch tomorrow. They're gonna be up for it, of course. And so turning to Spurs lineup, so we got the news. We talked about it a little bit earlier, JP, that they think Richarlison is going to be available for selection. So in terms of the lineup, curious to see what the audience thinks, and you can throw this in the chat. Really, there aren't a lot of decisions. I think we obviously know who the back five are going to be, unless there's a late injury that no one knows about. So we know who the back five is going to be, right?
Do we?
Well, then please carry on.
I'm not I'm pretty sure Dragusin will start, but I would not be surprised at all if Ben Davies starts over him.
He did say in the press conference Dragusin will start unless he's being clever, unless he's being that. Great. But he said it in an Ange funny way, where he was like, "I'll just get rid of the he said, I'll get rid of the anticipation. He'll start tomorrow," and that's what he said.
Yeah, he'll start then.
Which I think
my point was more off the back of Ben Davies actually did really well on that left centre back spot, and I think Dragusin is more suited to the right, but can play there. That's fine. Wouldn't have surprised me if he had done that, but I'm happy either way, really.
Okay, so if we've been told that the decision will be Dragusin, then our midfield, for me, it's Basuma, Sarr, and Madison. I don't really see any other combination. You're nodding your head there, JP. So you agree?
100%.
Jack, any thoughts of a different starting midfield?
No, I just think Basuma, for me, was with Brennan Johnson, was my two men of the match from the last game. I just thought Basuma was terrific in the last game, and I hope that he gets back to his best self, because it feels like when Spurs are beating teams 3-0, 4-0, or when Spurs are playing at their best. It has been when also Basuma has been playing at his best, or just any number 6 is kind of seems to be the most important position in the team for whether Spurs can really like dominate a game. And Basuma, I think, was terrific in the last game.
The only caveat to that is just how Sars pulled up, because I know like at the end of the first half he was kind of clutching at his back a bit. So if he's had a bad week in training, then I mean, my Lo Celso shout from last week still holds.
Yes,
that's right.
Absolutely. Well, I would say that barring an injury, like you're saying, or a problem with the back, Sar's in. So really, then it comes down to the only question mark is who starts with Son and on what side. So we've got Davo saying that he's not looking to see Richie play because he thinks the connections between our forward line are better when he doesn't play. I'm not saying he's wrong, but I'm not saying that that's a slam dunk either. But what are your thoughts if Richie's 100% fit? Let's assume that everyone says yes, he could go 90. What's your starting lineup?
You go first, JP.
I mean, your starting forward line, rather.
I wouldn't be surprised if Richie starts and Son goes back to the left. What I want to see this game, and it's not necessarily for any tactical reasons, I just want to see it, is a forward line of Son, Brennan, and Timo. And I think
really?
Brennan, it would be hard to take him out of the team after his last couple of performances. And Timo, I think, has done enough as well to suggest that he's probably more in form than Decky at the moment. And at some point, Decky has to have a rest. He's played just about every game and 90 minutes in just about every game this season. So, I'd be inclined maybe for this game to see how that works. But, particularly in the first half, if we can get those three, pressing them really high, we'll be able to kind of wear them out and start breaking them down quicker. I just think that's a really exciting forward line.
What about you, Jack? What's your forward line?
I'd go Brennan Johnson, Sonny, Kulusevski. I'm a huge, defender of Richarlison. I do feel like for some reason he gets a lot of slack despite still being the second highest. I have his kid, so I kind of do have to defend him, but out of shame. But also, I think he's just for some reason gets too much criticism despite being the second highest goal contributor this season. He's also played fewer minutes than Kulusevski, than Maddison. Funny enough, Maddison's played more minutes than Richarlison, yet Richarlison has, plenty of assists, plenty of goals, has contributed to our success this season. And for some reason, I think just gets a lot of unnecessary, criticism, in my opinion. Like, I think he probably shouldn't start tomorrow because the last front three played terrific. And I don't think you just walk into that front three really with how they were playing. And it'd be an interesting guy to bring in off the bench. Let's say we find ourselves with one of those annoying Fulham games, maybe with how they've been playing this season. It's 1-1, 70th minute. Got to probably throw someone on who offers something very different, someone who offers something in the air, especially, so that we can just kind of kitchen sink time to start throwing balls into the box, and he'd be the guy to do that. He'd be great for it. So Richarlison is just a great person to have back, just in general. Whether he starts or not, he is a great person to have back because he does offer something different. I think we sometimes forget we can't just have 4 pacey wingers, on the bench, just to sub in and out. I think we do need somebody who offers something, slightly different in that.
It's interesting because I think that will be Richarlison's role next year is, whether we sign a new striker or we don't, the system will be more geared towards Son being the 9 or a new striker being the 9 and Richarlison being that kind of, okay, we need a different option to come on. And I'm totally fine with that because I think he's a totally perfectly adequate rotation option in a upper Premier League squad.
Yes, I would. Sorry, David. Yes, there was a tremor here in North Carolina. I agree. I mean, some people. I'm always amazed when people say 60 million for a squad player. It's like, well, that's what teams who want to challenge for the league title have on their bench is $60 million. Now, did we overpay that? I'm not getting into that. Doesn't matter.
That's a good point, though.
And if I said dollars instead of pounds, I apologize. But I mean, it's just like that's what you do need. You want someone who can get 10, 12 goals from the bench even, so that's what you've got to have. And I agree. As far as the starting lineup this week in the forward line, I like the idea of Johnson on the right and Timo on the left to see how those three can interchange. My concern is the Anthony Robinson is a very aggressive, big, fast, strong left back. And I'm a little worried about whether or not that lineup with Johnson and Porro over the outside is what we want, as opposed to a bigger body in Decky who might be able to body him up and play defense a little bit. Maybe Thar's enough cover if he's fully healthy, but I'm just a little worried about whether we don't bring Decky in just for some defensive stability on their left side. But maybe not. I mean, that's obviously going to be the call that Ange has to make. And whatever he decides, of course, is perfectly fine with me. I guess that means with Richarlison on the bench more than likely, or even the starting lineup, then I would say Scarlett loses his spot.
Yeah,
would that be the guess?
Crazy, and I see David Harris in the chat saying Hill is the future. Here's my opportunity. I think we're starting to see who Postecoglou really rates or not, because Skip was out of the squad entirely in the last game, and sadly, the Hill Messi prophecy could be coming to a very quick end here, because he was also out of the squad entirely. And there were no under 21 candidates, but I think that was more also because they had played recently in a very big game. But there you go. Like Postecoglou, I think the fact that he did leave out Skip and Hill says a lot.
So this is your compatriot there, JP. Richie with Timo and BJ on the wings in the second half. So this is trying to say that we're going to put Son on the bench. I don't know that I'm going to see that happen unless the game's out of hand. Spurs are up 3-4-0, and we're going to rest him. But you don't have to rest him before the international break. Speaking of which, does anyone know whether Son got called up?
South Korea are playing. Son got called up.
Well, they're playing Thailand in a friendly, I think. I don't even think it's a game, so I just wonder if he got called. I don't know who's doing the calling up in Korea. I don't know if anyone knows.
Is it still Jurgen Klinsmann, or did they fire him?
No,
okay.
They fired Klinsmann.
Thank
yeah.
God.
No, Sonny's there for every game for South Korea, so he'll be there. Rain, hail, or snow.
Yeah, so I was afraid of. But I certainly wouldn't mind him, pulling a little limp towards the end of the game. I got a little niggle there. I don't think I can fly out east.
Nah, not how his mind works, mate. He'd be there with crutches on.
Yeah, I know. I can hope.
He's got to stop the ping pong from happening.
You'd be a Spurs fan if you were hoping, because
David,
you get hope and then be bitterly disappointed.
Davo, if you want to put in where you're headlining, which comedy club you're doing, you might want to throw that in the chat. I'll throw it up there if you want. So, yeah, this is what we're talking about. I mean, even as strong as our bench is looking, I think this is a good point. Is we're still far away from the depth and strength that we need to put a serious challenge in. And he said 3 windows. I would hope that it doesn't take that long, but you just can't predict anything with this board and this chairman in terms of transfers. There's just I'm not going to get into that. We're not going to do a show on transfers, but it is absolutely true that no matter what, the bench isn't strong enough, and the starting 11 quite isn't strong enough either.
The takeaway quote was when he said like the transfers wouldn't be any different if we finished in Europa League or if we finished in Champions League, which either people who would think then, oh, he's just saying that to please Levy, or people might think that is a serious thing. Like, they're taking their targets very seriously and they know who they want regardless of, where they finish.
Yeah. There's kind of only, like, when I look through the squad though as well, there's kind of only 8 players that I consider as like locks for the team to be them and moving forward next year and the year after. So if you think about that over a squad of 22, then there is significant work to be done.
So who are you? I mean, I think we can I'll guess your 8. Obviously, we know who the goalkeeper is. We know who the 2 center backs are. We know the starting fullbacks. So that's 5. And basically the midfield.
Madison, Son, and then Basuma at his best is a lock.
And I think Sarr is our best
Sarr is a
midfielder.
lock.
Yeah, but I also think that Sarr is absolutely our best midfielder, but if you could get more kind of attacking progression out of someone, then he could become more of a kind of different matches rotation type player.
I'm hoping to see him develop more of that ability like we used to get with Dele, who's those late runs coming out of the midfield into the box and picking up a finishing touch. Because if he develops that, then he becomes hands down almost the first name on the team sheet for me.
Oh yeah, like if he and like his final third output isn't bad this year. Like that cross for Maddison was incredible, and he scored a few goals. But if he can develop more of that, particularly those late runs, then yeah, he becomes a lock. If he doesn't, then I see him probably progressing more as a number 6. But we'll see. Only time will tell.
True. Yeah, so I want to take a quick deviation from the run sheet for just a moment, guys, because Davo has put this up in the chat, and I'm going to take because I've been trying to get some advice. So I only can basically, without spending points or using my wild card, I can't field a team this weekend. So I assume the right decision is not to use your wild card and get stuck with a bunch of West Ham players that you then have to work your way out of, and just suck the week up and realize that you're not going to. That you
the only thing you didn't say
your
that one. There's that one thing though where you can play something temporarily where it's like you just make a whole new team. You've already used that, then that's your only hope. That's your only
hope. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. I'm just gonna have to suck eggs for this weekend. That's fine. Okay. All right. So the games.
Just to clarify my points, because I can see I'm getting dragged through it in the chat. Starters. So like Brennan will still be here because Ange really rates him. Dragoshin is obviously going to be here. Sarr is obviously going to be like. There's more than 8 players that are still going to be here. I'm talking about like 8 players that you'd lock in to start next season.
So you're saying that we can improve through the transfer window. We should be looking to add 3 players that are good enough to come straight into the starting 11, which is basically mostly our forward line or maybe a midfielder.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fair point. Jack, would you view it the same way that we're at least 7 at most 8 players good for a starting 11 that could challenge?
I mean, JP is far more ruthless than I am. He kind of looks like sort of the Lego head or Arteta, at Arsenal with all. Like, to be fair, I heard this today on the fan show that we did on my channel, and someone had mentioned, like, despite we don't want to give them praise, like they have done that where they have like looked at players that probably were playing well at the time, but they were like, well, there is somebody out there who's even better that we could go after that would improve the team just that much more. And they've been ruthless about it. You look at their situation with the goalkeeper. That's very funny. You look at the Declan Rice, bringing him in, right? I think they took out Granit Xhaka. You look at even, Emile Smith-Rowe, like no longer plays for them, and he was a huge contributor to them in the beginning stages. So JP, I think, if I'm correct, is sort of in a way kind of about that sort of point where it's like, in the long term, you will have to make ruthless decisions and tough decisions. Like, yeah, we love this guy, but can he be better? Good example, I think, sadly, despite how good I think he has been for us, in times, and has done a great job, when we've called upon him for the most part, Emerson Royale is one of them. I think like he's a guy where you think like long term, can he really like be serviceable like as a backup to Porro and what Porro brings? No, but I think Emerson hasn't done himself in any shame whatsoever in filling in at center back, had a decent game at left back once or twice, and has even done well when playing even like towards the tail end of last season. I think that's where even his good notoriety came from, was because he finished strong last season, risen above criticism, that sort of type of thing. But as much as he's a cult hero kind of on social media, like we'll have to probably move past him, and he's a good example. Ben Davies, I think, is a good example as well. Like we will have to move past Ben Davies, even though we think maybe he is better as a left-sided center back. Regardless, like we know there are better left-sided center back backups out there than Ben Davies, and there are other examples too. And JP, I think, is being kind of like he's being like an Arteta.
It's more to say that there's probably 8 positions in our squad I don't think we can improve on. Like I don't think you can improve on Sonny as a 9. Like he's one of the best finishers, if not the best finisher in the league.
Let me interrupt. Do you mean Spurs can improve because we don't have the transfer ability or attractiveness, or that we actually, regardless, even if it's fantasy football, we can't go out and get a better 9.
The Spurs can't.
I mean,
there's positions across that where I don't think anyone could. Like, for the way we play, there's not too many players better than Maddison to do that role.
Right.
There's not too many defenders in world football better than Romero, Van der Van, Udogie, and Porro. Like, there might be a few. You can make some arguments, sure. Like, is Porro the best right back in the world? No. But is he in that category of like almost perfect for the system? Yeah, right. He is. So why would you we're not looking to upgrade on that. And right. You would find it almost impossible to the point where it's detrimental to the rest of your transfer policy.
Yeah.
Could we improve on the wings? Yeah, we could improve on the wings. Could we get something different that might work better for different games in the 8? Yeah, we could get something different that might work different in the 8. And that's kind of the positions I'm looking at. If you want to improve our 11 to a point of like we're challenging, and you just look at the 11, I think we're probably one winger away from being like really good, or maybe 2 wingers from being really, really good. If you want to, then the rest of the squad, it's like, well, okay, well, we need better depth. So like there's a lot of players that we would keep, but we probably need more suited depth at the fullback positions and some more suited depth at the 8 and the 10. And, you know, it's up to people to decide where they see Sonny and Richarlison. Is Sonny the starting striker? If he's not, then we need more depth and maybe a starter at the 9. So there's more we need to do, absolutely. It's more that I think there's 8 positions that you'd find it incredibly difficult to improve on and is not worth looking at this point in time.
Yeah. I as I said, I have a soft spot for, maybe Royale as well, Jack. I mean, just because I admire the work he put in to improve himself under Conte. I admire the how he survived being basically booed when subbed on or cheered when subbed off. To being, like you're saying, a cult hero. I think that he loves being at the club. He loves Spurs, but I don't doubt that Ange is ruthless enough to say that the only way he survives is at that 25th spot because he can play multiple positions. Clearly, I mean, he's not going to kill you. It's just that he's just never going to be good enough going forward to really work in the system.
Yeah, he would have to really work on that, and I doubt that would happen. But
I don't think it's possible.
At the same time, Ange has used him in the way that Emerson had the chance to be used. Where, like, let's be honest, like I think what Emerson has done this season, playing the various positions he has, and for the most part, like, yes, he's had maybe some bad games, but for most consistent, like, player in terms of just doing a job. Like when we've asked for a guy, just like, don't embarrass us, just please, just get over the line for us, please do a job. I think he's done that. Even that one Bournemouth game where him and Davies were playing at center back. Like, I remember after that game, like, we barely won against Bournemouth until the very end. And I felt like Davies and Emerson were the men of the match, like, after that game.
Well, I mean, and we talked about this on the preview show for the Villa game. They will
sadly have to go.
Yeah, the Villa game, I mean, that was one of our best performances without winning of the entire season. The home loss.
And we started put together with, like, that first half was lightning.
And Davies and Emerson were the center backs. So they can work, but again, I think no one is going to say it's going to be sad if Emerson gets sold, because he's probably going to be worth something to a lot of clubs. You're going to get some decent money for players.
Simeone would love him. He would be terrific, I think, for Simeone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting. We've always kind of lamented our ability to, like, get any resale back on players, particularly players that have gone out on loan. And we
suck at selling players.
Oh, so bad. Take Tongi out of the equation, though, because that's a whole different thing. Right. This year, we've done much better at that. I think the players that are still at the club have shown that they're Premier League players and that they're just not quite suited for this. But we've got them enough minutes in this season that if a club comes and says, hey, we want this player, we have a reason to say, oh, they're a valuable squad player to us, and you can't just shortchange us for them. And then the players that we've got out on loan, even Tanganga's doing really well now, are playing well, and so they're going to have pretty substantial kind of resale value. If you think about, like, the best players being bought out of the Championship going for kind of 20, 30 million at the moment, that's kind of where Roden and
would say-
Tanganga should be seeing themselves. So there's some decent money we're going to be able to
I
recruit
agree.
from those
Finally.
players this year.
Yeah, we should.
Brian
we
Hill,
should
you'll still get kind of 15 from a La Liga side.
Højbjerg.
Yep.
Well, this is the thing, actually. These guys who aren't even technically for the long term suited for Ange ball, a lot of them have thankfully played well, like you would say this season, and that's what JP I think is on about. We're like,
you could get 80. You could get 80 million
Emerson,
this summer.
Davies, Højbjerg, probably sadly not Brian Hill as much. I think he hasn't featured enough this season to have his maybe go up a ton. But I think that's a good point. Like guys who we even knew from the get go didn't probably have a long lifespan under Ange, have thankfully played well when we've needed them to, and we'll then get a good transfer fee for it, so we can cover whoever we need.
And Norman, echoing what you said last time we were on one of these shows together, JP, that we're still a long way from playing.
Yep.
We see it in fits and starts. It's here and there. It's for a half. It's for 30 minutes, but it's not ever been 90 minutes. We've yet to put a game together where 90 minutes of playing at peak level has been there. And I think you would agree with this comment because that's what you said the last time we were together.
Yeah, even just ball speed, we're still a ways off the kind of the pace that he likes to play the ball at. So there's a lot still to come from this team.
So the songs are on the topic. We're off the run sheet anyway. I think this is a good topic anyway, because after this, we're going to turn to some of the Champions League and weekend games. So what do we think we can get for Rodon, Spence, Reguilon, Tanganga, Højbjerg, and Mole and Gil? All right. So I think we can agree that Tanguy we're going to get nothing for him. What we're hoping to is continue to find somebody who will take a portion of his wages until his contract is done at the end of next year. I don't have the contract. I usually have my contracts up.
He's got a year left after this.
So
I see all those together being less than 70 million because at the end of the day, like Rodon is not like, but let's be real. You don't have to give a real number to it, but like a championship club, how much are they really actually going to pay? They're not going to fork over tons of money. Spence the same thing with Genoa or Bologna, wherever again he is at. Like they're not going to spend a ton of money. Reguilon, same thing with Brentford. We're talking about the Moneyball team of the Premier League. Like they're not going to be spending a lot of money if they want to get him, or even a La Liga club. I don't think is going to spend a lot of money because La Liga doesn't have a ton of money. Same thing goes for Hill. Like I think the 15 million was actually sadly generous. As much as I'm an idiot and I would pay 15 million for Brian Hill, I don't know if a lot of people really would. And Højbjerg is probably the only one that gets us over 30, maybe 40 if we're being generous. I think Tanganga is a similar boat to Rodon, probably nowhere near as much as Rodon because Rodon at least has more of a reputation, you'd say, in at least the championship and whatnot. So I'd say less than 60 million, 70 million, to be honest.
A lot of this depends on Leeds coming up, because if Leeds come up, Rodon's 25, and that because they'll have to spend that on a centre back anyway. So I think you can probably get 20 to 25 for Rodon.
Absolutely.
Spence will go back out on loan. I don't know that Genoa are going to take up that option they've got on him. So he'll go out on loan probably to a championship club next season, and there'll be a £10 million option in that. Reguilon. It's bizarre this for Reguilon because he's a good player and he should be kind of a 20-25 million pound player, but
I don't think we recoup our fee that we originally paid for him.
We're not recouping the fees.
I think he goes to 10 to 15 too.
No, he's almost in that category if he's going to get another loan and he's just going to loan his way out of the club to a free transfer. It's bizarre. I don't understand it. The only thing I can see is if maybe like a Sevilla or wherever he was when he was on loan from Madrid come back in from him, we say 10, take him for 10 kind of thing. It's bizarre because he's such a good player.
Tanganga, you'll go back to Spain. I think you can get 20 million out of him.
I don't think there's 20 million. Oh, Reguilon and Hill. Yeah. You could definitely get that 20. I'd be wanting to stretch that to 25, but Højbjerg is interesting because his last year of his contract, we were struggling to get 30 million for him last summer. I think we're probably going to land somewhere between 15 and 20 for him this year.
Yeah, one less year on his deal.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're gonna. I don't think we're.
It won't be hard to sell though. At least we know there'll be.
If we know
that is disappointing though. I thought we would get more out of him, but I think that's a fair point. Last year the contract,
to that end though as well, we only paid like 2 million and
we'd be getting our money back
for
still.
him. You know,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
But then
I was banking on more. That's frustrating. I was banking on more.
I think Tanganga, if Tanganga carries on the way he's going, he'll be a 10, 15 million pound player back to the championship. And then you've got Hill, who we've kind of wrapped in that 25 million to La Liga
package.
Yeah. Sell as many to Spain. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's depending on the market this summer and who gets promoted, but it's a $50 to $70 million group of players, and they won't, they probably won't sell them all. But if they could bring in, I think we'll get good money overall for everyone that we're trying to get off the roster. I think they'll get enough to buy 2 good squad players for that group, maybe if we shop well.
There's someone we haven't talked about in that as well, Lo Celso, because I think he'll be sold.
Yes.
And I think he'll fetch 15 to 20 because there are clubs that really want him over in La Liga.
Yeah.
He has.
I don't know why.
Summer.
I just don't know why.
He does.
I mean, I like his talent. I just don't. He
can't stay fit. He just can't stay fit. Yeah.
There were 3 games I think we dropped points this season where Lo Celso was hurt and Madison was hurt, and Lo Celso has for no reason been hurt. Like he's just been hurt, like for no explainable reason. And those were games where even if you were a Lo Celso fan or not a Lo Celso fan, you were like, this game is crying out for a creative midfielder that Spurs need in this game to help us out in these games, and he just wasn't available. And so we had to play Skip Højbjerg, like Bentancur, like combinations, or like Skip Kulusevski, like combinations. And it was frustrating. And I was mad at Lo Celso for that because I felt like that was his chance. That was his chance to get his permanent move. It felt like for Spurs.
I think more damning is that like even when he's been on the bench, we've brought on like Højbjerg and Skip ahead of him, which I've been incredibly frustrated with, but obviously there's something behind the scenes that Ange thinks we're going to get more out of those players than we are with him, which is a shame because when he's played, he's always played really well. Like he hasn't really had a bad game for Spurs since Ange came. No, it's just getting him on the pitch. He just can't get on it.
No, I mean that's no question about it. So I mean, the good news is there's a lot of players that we could really boost their transfer budget with. You add in those. I've seen some people calling for Decky to go, and I say that's a bad idea. It's just Decky isn't a winger in the system. He should be playing in midfield or centrally in some capacity. Maybe he could play behind Madison and be a winger when you need him, or when you're trying to lock a game down, you bring him in on the wing. But I think there's enough talent. They've done at least enough good recruitment the last few years that we should be able to get some money into the kitty for Ange to spend the summer. So I'm reasonably optimistic as I can be as a Spurs fan when it comes to transfer windows. All right,
it's the most optimistic I've been that we're going to be able to sell players as well this season because we've got valuable players to sell that clubs seem to
Finally,
want.
they've had good seasons.
I know.
Yeah,
absolutely. All of them have had good seasons, which is good.
That's funny, Norman. I won't put it up. So these are the matches this weekend. We've got both the FA Cup quarters and an abbreviated schedule for the Premier League. So this is, I guess, the Saturday matches, and then the Sunday matches.
You have no Spurs players in your fantasy Premier League team?
Well, I have 3, but I can't field enough. I've got Doughty, I've got Bowen. McGinn got thrown out, so he's not eligible. So yeah, so I'm a little.
I thought you said you had virtually no one, or like.
I think I can put 6. I think.
That's much better than what
6 or 7 on the pitch. Yeah,
that's much better than what I have.
And these are the Sunday. So let's talk a little bit. Let's just make our calls here on the Premier League schedule on Saturday. So Burnley and Brentford, a game that I will absolutely not watch under any circumstances. And I would fully expect Brentford to win this match, and Burnley is just trying to see how quickly they can get down mathematically. What are your thoughts there, JP?
It would be really fun if Burnley won it, because that'll make the relegation fight pretty ropey when it comes to the end there. But
Brentford has to win to keep the distance, and they can't continue to drop points.
Yeah, which is why it would be fun. But Brentford are going to win that one.
Jackie, any disagreement on that?
Well, I'm one of those losers where these are kind of the games that I do not mind actually, because I like watching the worst teams in the Premier League struggle for that 1 point or that 3 points. It is kind of desperation time, and it is kind of nice to watch just teams get it launched in desperation of something. But Brentford, I think, should win. Company, I think, has proven to be a big failure. I'd be surprised if Burnley stick with him. I think he should have done a lot better. He's got a lot more investment than people even realize too.
Yeah, and they spent a lot of money. Not well, but they spent a lot of money. So now Luton, who broke my heart on this past week, giving up the 4 goals to, was that Brentford? Bournemouth. So they are proving, they've scored more goals than United. They are proving to be a very fun, entertaining watch. They play really good football, and I really, 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 really hope they stay up. And I'd love to see them win this match. And I'm emotionally rooting for them. And some of my wife and some of her friends are also hoping that they stay up because they all seem to fancy the coach. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this? I would tune in to watch this because I like watching Luton. JP,
who's the striker Luton have got?
Well, Morris is playing up there because their regular striker, big guy who his name escapes me right now. Enormous guy. I guess what's the name?
Yeah, he's
somebody
huge.
in the chat, throw it in there.
Adebayo.
That's it.
That's the one. Yeah,
I was thinking Adebayo, and I just couldn't get.
I do the same thing. I'm like, it's not Adebayo. And then I also go to like Adebayo, like the Fulham defender. And anyway, if he was playing, I'd back Luton to do it. But this has 0-0 draw written all over it for me, unfortunately.
Oof.
I still haven't watched the Bournemouth Luton highlights, which I heard was an even better game than all the Champions League games were that day. So I do want to watch back that game at some stage because I heard it was terrific. I'm going to go for this being 8 or 9 goals in this game because Forest concede so many goals whenever I've seen them in certain games. Like Forest, it's hilarious. Like I think Forest, whenever I've watched them, I think they concede like 3 or 4 as a given whenever I've watched them. Luton Town, we know every game they play in, they concede 4, score 3. So I see this being like a 4-4, like like a 5-4 game, like one of those ridiculously dumb games.
There's usually a 9-goal game in the Premier League season, but I thought that when Southampton went down, they wouldn't have to play Liverpool.
It's not going to be someone gets embarrassed. It's going to be basketball end-to-end 5-4, something like that. This game. Forest cannot defend. Luton cannot defend, but they both can score. It's very funny.
So I got a 0-0 prediction. I got a 9-goal prediction. I'll split the difference and say Luton 3-2. Of course. See you later, Deva. And we've got the Fulham hosting the mighty Spurs. I have this a 3-1 victory for Spurs. JP?
It's the first thing that came to my head. Fulham 2, Spurs 3.
Okay. Jack?
I've gone 2-0. I think Spurs have a chance of keeping a clean sheet again off of the last one.
0-2. Okay, cool.
Yeah, 0-2. Yeah, Spurs win, thank God. But yeah, I think Spurs just have a good record against Fulham for the most part, but they rarely get beat by a lot of goals, it feels like Fulham, so I doubt we scored 3 or 4 or anything like that. So
yeah, Gov, as I said, United has scored fewer goals than Luton, and I hadn't really thought about that in terms of the payroll or investment in the 2 squads. That is pretty much laughing my fucking ass off. There's no doubt about it. So I don't see anyone being negative. We get pretty much everyone. Everyone's calling for Spurs to take this one. I would expect no less from this group. Then we've got the West Ham Villa game. What do you think, JP? Spammers had a unbelievable game against Freiburg midweek.
Villa got spanked. Well, Villa slapped up Ajax.
Right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Midweek as well, so they look like they've turned a little bit of a corner. It's really hard for my heart not to scream louder than my head here, but it's hard again to say that West Ham win is what's in your heart. So I'm going to go for hopefully a 1-1 draw.
I've got Villa winning this. I don't scores 2-1 sounds fine. I think Villa bounces back and West Ham takes one step forward, 2 back.
I heard that maybe Ollie Watkins went off injured against Ajax.
No, he didn't.
He didn't? Okay.
Well, he sort of did. He had an injury early in the game, and then later on, like in the second half, I believe, then he went off. So it's like one of those.
Right.
Oh, yeah. If Watkins doesn't play, I'm changing my pick. But if he's healthy and plays, then I'm sticking with mine. Yeah. So let's just talk. Do you guys have any care about the quarterfinals of the FA Cup? Obviously, I would think Coventry is the sentimental favorite here.
If Coventry can do it, that'd be awesome.
I mean, I kind of have 2 minds about that. Coventry's not winning the FA Cup. So, and Wolves are a decent enough side that they might be able to knock someone off. Because, I'd like to see somebody other than City or, one of the usual suspects win it.
Well, you would want Newcastle if it's not us to win the Premier League. I know everybody hates watching Man City win the Premier League again and again and again, but for me, they're my guarantee ahead of Arsenal. Like, you can sort of guarantee that they will hopefully finish above Arsenal. And maybe if Newcastle beat Man City, less distractions for Man City, fewer games, they have a better chance of finishing above Arsenal. Which
I'm not sure I agree with you with either of you on this. I think I want Man City to win everything that they can. If Spurs aren't going to win it, because it just means when they inevitably get done for whatever they can eventually get done for, and they get stripped of all of their titles, and that gets handed down to the next one, it'll kind of be like no one won anything. And so I'm in the Man City win it all if it's not Spurs. Yeah, if it's not Spurs, it's Man City.
Okay. Here we've got the obvious Chelsea-Leicester. There's no doubt who we're rooting for. I don't care about anything other than Leicester beating Chelsea. I don't see it happening, but it's not a foregone conclusion. Leicester's a good squad. They're going to be more than likely automatic promotion. So I'd like to see them make sure Chelsea gets nowhere near a trophy. I think that's extremely important. So I'm hoping Leicester pulls this out. And what do you think about the Liverpool-Man United game? Can Liverpool put up 5 or 6 at Old Trafford?
What was so strange the last time we thought that would happen, didn't it end up being 0-0? Or something, whatever that one game was, the previous Man United Liverpool fixture. There was
right, yes,
it was all hyped up for it to be like, this is going to be a slaughter, and it ended up just being 0-0. And actually, Man United didn't even play that bad for the most part. Like, yes, they defended.
Yeah, they did actually play well that game. Yep, no
doubt. I could see it being something similar to that, and then. But maybe they lose, but Ten Hag still praises his team for losing 2-0 and sitting back.
Let's hope both the Liverpool Leicester come out on top. I'd like to. Well, I don't really care if Liverpool wins that game or not, but I expect them to win fairly comfortably, given the fact that they are now clicking. It doesn't matter who they put on the pitch; they look fantastic.
If Man United lose that game, though, they will really go into even further drama mode for all of this media and everything to cling on to, because they really will have almost nothing left to play for, I think, this season, except Conference League spot or something like that, for them. So if they do lose that game, it will be,
this is
what Sport will be talking about.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is a really good point. I had not considered this. Newcastle beat City so that we're not rearranging another game. So I thank you, Michael. Appreciate you pointing that out. That's an excellent point.
Good point.
So let's finish. We're gonna go and talk about whoops. So the draw came out, and of course this matters because I'll put up the standings as far as the race for the extra 2 Champions League spots for next season. So all the favorites have wound up on the same side of the bracket. So this basically makes, I'd say, potentially the semifinal on that side of the bracket, potentially really the final, if you buy into that. So Arsenal and Bayern Munich Atletico Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, PSG, and Barcelona, and Real Madrid and Man City, which will be must-see TV for several billion people around the world, without question. So, and of course, that is the fixtures. Let me go right to the Europa League draw. 2 Italian teams squared up: Liverpool, Atalanta, Leverkusen, and West Ham. That I would expect Leverkusen to come through that, which is going to hurt England's chances a little bit. We'll look at that. Benfica, Marseille, don't really care. But you can see that you've got the semifinal where you could have AC Milan or Roma playing Leverkusen. That would be a really good semifinal. But it looks like Liverpool's got pretty smooth sailing right to the final. And and what do you think? Leverkusen, Liverpool, a final? That'd be quite watchable, wouldn't you think?
We're not thinking this through here. We're not thinking this through at all.
Straighten us out. Come on, help us out.
What we need to be talking about here, and this is the only thing that matters, is whether or not we want Arsenal to go out to Bayern Munich or Arsenal to go out to Man City. And I would argue that we want Arsenal to go out to Bayern Munich. That would be glorious. Glorious scenes of emotions flowing from my eyes as Harry Kane proves his love to us Spurs fans once and for all and scores a quintuplet against the Gooners.
Right.
Well, Arsenal's record against Bayern Munich is ours against Fulham.
Yeah. And why this matters is because if we want them to go out to Bayern and not Man City, then we need West Ham to go through in the Europa League as well.
I should have said that the other way around.
Those points out.
I should have said that the other way around. Bayern Munich's record against Arsenal is ours against Fulham.
Yeah, it is phenomenal. And actually, JP, since you didn't begin the show with us, this kit that I've got on, I've never worn this kit before. It was given to me as a gift, and I've never worn it. It was given to me actually as late last year in the season by a colleague who I've been getting into European football. And he started to buy me Tottenham stuff for Christmas and birthdays and stuff. So I got this late in the year, and number 10 is on the back. I've never worn it because the season was over. I'm not the kit, it is what it is as far as the style of it. It's not, super wearable in North Carolina. And then Harry goes, so there's no point. But after the draw was announced, I was like, I now have a purpose to put on this kit.
Yeah.
So I expect Harry just to be salivating at this fixture, at this tie. And I wouldn't be surprised if across 2 legs he gets 5 goals. I mean, it just he probably won't, but I will be watching. I assure you. I have not been rooting for Bayern Munich. I couldn't give a rat's ass if he wins a trophy. In fact, I don't care at all. But I do want him to win this tie, and I want him to go through. There's no.
They go out in the semifinals, like 100%. Like he can lose in the semifinals. That's fine, but he needs to knock out Arsenal. That's all that matters here.
Correct.
And so therefore, we're then saying, well, every other German team needs to lose. So the results need to go Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, PSG, sure. And then Man City. And then when you go to the Europa League, I don't know what those are, but
whoops. We need technically you want West Ham to beat Leverkusen. I don't think it's even remotely. Well, of course, Leverkusen has been a little dicey, should have gone out to Karabag, but I still hope that they put it together and can take West Ham out. Although that doesn't serve
West
our interest.
Ham, give it a crack, West Ham, see what you can do. But yeah, please beat Leverkusen if you can. Liverpool win, AC Milan, Roma doesn't matter. Benfica, Marseille doesn't matter. No. It's just those 2 results we need to go for us.
And then here's the other competition. So obviously we want Villa to get as far as possible. I fancy them against Lille, and then I would expect them to get through the semifinal. I mean, they should make the final, and I mean they really should, unless they have some poor injuries that knock them back. And I want them to go as deep as possible. I want them to have to play Thursday night as much as possible, obviously for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So
at this point, you're playing for the bonus points, not necessarily for the wins. So getting your teams deeper in the competition starts meaning a little bit more now.
Yeah, after the West Ham result against Freiburg, it tightened up between second and third. As you can see, Italy is more than likely too far out to be caught. I think I haven't done the math, and I'm not going to.
No, they'll never be caught.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, but because Germany lost some clubs, now they only have 3 left. It is definitely. I think the odds makers have got England pretty, not a lock, but very close to a strong odds to grab that second spot. But for my purposes, it'd be a lot nicer just to root for Spurs to control their own destiny as they do, get the points, not worry about it, and then we can root against, Arsenal, we can root against West Ham, we can root against whoever, Villa. I'd just like to see that happen and not have to worry about 5th spot, quite frankly. I think that's the way to go.
I say we just continue to match ourselves against Villa and keep going at it that way. And then if we have to bank on a 5th spot, then so be it. But at this moment in time, I think we've stolen the momentum for top 4.
Oops, sorry.
And if we continue with this momentum and don't pull a complete ridiculous performance and not get 3 points here, then, Spurs should go on and carry a lot of momentum and actually just steal this top 4 race. Be honest, and then if we don't do that, then maybe we have to bank on it, but I don't see us having to do that.
Let's hope you're right, because I don't want them to bottle it against Fulham and then I'm having to root for freaking West Ham. That just doesn't feel good.
It would be a bit of a Man City to Burnley is what we were chatting about in the fan show, to go from that to that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just grab the 4th spot and not worry about it.
Biggest win of the season to worst loss of the season, back to back.
So to Michael's point earlier about, there's only 2 free midweeks, unless they want to stick the Chelsea game on a European week. We're going to be played in Chelsea. One of those 2 weeks would be, and I would expect it to probably be between Burnley and Sheffield for TV purposes, and towards the end of the season. If the TV folks think Chelsea could have a shot at knocking Spurs out of Champions League, that's where they'd want it to be, of course. But we also, if you're saying Man City moving forward in the FA Cup potentially has to reschedule that match, and that could also be a midweek game. So that's what the rest of it looks like. And then these are the fixtures of our nearest competitors for that 4th spot. Obviously, United, I don't really, I don't see them as really getting close to 4th. I mean, their really only shot is grabbing 5th. I think there's too much ground to make up unless there's just a huge collapse. These are the matches. The key ones for United, obviously, is after this weekend is obviously going to Chelsea. That's not an easy win. Home to Liverpool, it's probably a loss. Bournemouth away is no easy task. Newcastle.
Hilarious is I could see them losing all these games. Man United, like they're that sort of team this season. Like, apart from Sheffield United and maybe Burnley, Crystal Palace also hilariously I think have a good record against Man United for whatever reason. Or it's like one of the teams they show up against. But apart from that, like all those teams, I could see them picking up points against Man United. Like they're the most ridiculous team this season. Like they're just night and day.
Yeah, I mean, technically,
even that Everton win was ridiculous. Everton was dominating them. I was watching that game. I was shocked that they lost.
Yeah, they were. So I mean, everyone's got big games left. Obviously, you've got Arsenal, City, Chelsea, Liverpool still on for Villa and for us. I mean, everyone's got the heavyweights still to play. So I don't think anyone has an easier run than another. It's just one team has European competition and the other 2 don't. I mean, that's going to be Villa's challenge, is having to have, they just aren't deep enough. I don't think. I think that's going to be their problem. So that's the reason why I think United, really, if England gets the 5th spot, it would not shock me to see Villa drop out. They could win the Conference League. They really could end up focusing on that, and that would still get them a European spot. That gets them to Europa still, right? That hasn't changed with the new format next year. I think you still move up. You still get the Europa League spot, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be too surprised if it's Tottenham at 4th, United at 5th, and Villa at 6th.
Yeah, I see Man United finishing anywhere between 6th and 8th. But maybe I haven't looked at the other teams in the table that are competing with them. Villa are going to be the team we compete with. I doubt anybody else joins us. I think it's just going to be between us and Villa for the rest of the season for that fourth spot.
JP, what do you think?
No, I agree. Okay. Nothing to add. Move on.
Okay. Well, here, I think most people saw this. It's an amazing accomplishment. Up to 159 goals for the club. And realistically, my question to both of you is, how many years does Son continue to play? And what do you think is a realistic target in terms of number of goals? JP, what are your thoughts on
that? He will play for Spurs another 2 or 3 years.
Don't hedge. Give me one or give me two or three.
Three more years.
Okay.
He will score another 50.
Another 50. So cracks 200 to you're calling 209.
Yeah, let's just give it an even 210.
Okay. Jack?
I'd say same answer as JP. 3 years and over 200. Hopefully he gets inside the top 3 because he feels like a player that deserves to be sort of inside the top 3.
What's how many goals has he got this season? I want to say 15, but I might.
He's at like 13. I think he's at like 13 or 14. Yeah.
14.
So
I think
he's a little light on the goals for this season because you'd want him to be averaging around 20.
He's got 14 goals and 7 assists.
Yeah. Okay. So that gives you 3 years of 15 goals a season. Should get him there. Yeah, that feels about right.
The question,
I think he's got another. I think if he's the 9 for us next season, no Asian Champions League for him to commit to. He stays fit. He's a 20 to 25 goal a season striker.
100%. I agree with that. I think he can get past. I think he can get more than 50 goals. I think 3 seasons. Does he retire from football as Spurs, or does he go back home and play in the K League? What is anyone's feeling on what his future is post Spurs?
It's a little bit like Son is too big in Korea for him to go back to Korea and play in the K League. It would just he couldn't leave his house. So I would imagine he'll probably do an MLS type move, do that for 2 years and then retire.
Yeah, that's a fair call. He also seems like the guy. He also seems like the guy that actually just play as long as he can at Spurs, physically possible, even if that means maybe he doesn't end up playing nearly as often or whatever sort of role he ends up taking, and then maybe just retires after that or does 1 year, like you said, in the MLS, and then just calls it after that.
I think we've seen Ronaldo and Messi didn't go back to their home countries, even though they talked about it at stages throughout their career. I think for both of them, it was just I can't live. It's hard. I'm too big wherever I go, but I'm too big there.
Yeah, and I also don't see any. I hope that I'm right about this. That there's no chance he goes to Saudi Arabia. I don't think that's.
I don't think that's a him type move. Though that said, he's an Asian player. There's incentive for. You have homegrown limits in Asia, but you also have Asian player quotas as well. So you're allowed extra foreigners if they're from the Asian Confederation. So there would be quite significant incentive for a Qatari team to go in for him.
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, it's very possible. I hope not. I mean, I'd rather see him. I mean, obviously for me, I'd love to see him come to the MLS because that would be the second game I ever went to see in Charlotte FC. The last one being to see Messi. I don't go to MLS games. My local club's second division, and I don't have a team in the MLS. But if he goes, I will definitely make the travel to watch him play either in Atlanta or in Charlotte, which are very drivable for me, or even DC. I've seen there. So anyway, all right. We've been going much longer than I realized. We've got this. What is up? I had one more slide. I apologize to the audience. What are we looking at here?
Good sort of similar slide, just more colors.
No, this is game. This must be some sort of
projected points.
Projected points. I see it now. It's the font's so small. So 55, 53, 47. John put this slide. John, if you're still in the audience, can you tell me where we got this from? Because I didn't notice this one.
I mean, this is ultimately just kind of projecting the likelihood of wins and losses, and ultimately what it's saying. I don't think it's pulling in Chelsea for us. It's not. So that, if we beat Chelsea, there's an extra 3 points, which would take us up to 56, which is 1 point too few to pass Aston Villa at this point. So it's making the argument really that Villa are still the favourites to win this, but I mean, it makes some big assumptions that we're gonna lose to West Ham.
They're making the assumption we'll lose to Man City and Arsenal, which I think is crazy. Like back-to-back home games like that, I think we're picking up likely 3 points in one of those.
Yeah, I think we'll get, in that 3-game stretch, I think we'll get at least 2 or 3 points out of that.
Yeah, I would say worst case scenario is a single point. Best case scenario is 4. Well, I mean, obviously 6 best, but I just don't think we'd win both. But it's not, certainly, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, Arsenal at home is usually 3 points. I don't care what the situations are. Go back through the decades, it's usually 3 points. So the question is, do you lose to City or do you draw City? I mean, I don't see any reason why you don't get 4. Now, as John said, this is from Sky Sports. So, I mean, the bastion of avid Spurs fans that Sky Sports is, I'm sure that this is, their computer program has no bias whatsoever in it whatsoever. And we've got King Hoddle saying we've got 70 coming in. So you're going to need to get there, and I think it's very possible. Hopefully that's not going to land on your house there, Jack. So, all right. Well, I think that's enough. We'll leave it we'll leave it there. And JP, I do want to say thank you.
Hang on.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just realized that was cumulative points. I thought that was just anyway. So it does have us above Aston Villa. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't study a slide. I didn't see it, so I apologize to the audience. We've even got an 81 point call for Gov.
Well, we're picking up 33 points over the next 11 games. So it's all on.
Well, it was nice enough for Paul and Franco to invite me on the pod last time out, and we were they asked me whether we'd get 4th, and I said, well, wait a minute, why can't we get 3rd and overtake Arsenal? I think that's a little bit of a stretch. We'll need obviously a lot of help from Arsenal, but I sure hope and believe that they're capable of it. So, but yeah, Adrian's saying 7 wins is what we need for.
Feels about right. Yeah, 7 wins, that should do it.
I think people are feeling very good about 4th coming off that Aston Villa game, and then if we throw out a stinker against Fulham, I'm sure our review show of the game will get everyone saying we're not going to get 4th. So it's game to game. That last season that first season with Conte, I mean, it was all spring long. No, we're not getting 4th. No, we're getting 4th, and then just ran the table and played the best football we had under the guy, and then it just never came back ever again. Oh, and John is letting us know, by the way, everyone, our show on the Fulham review will be Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So in the UK, that's 9 p.m. It'll be Tuesday and not Monday. And we think that Tuesdays are the new Mondays. That seems to be working in everyone's schedule. So we'll probably be switching nights to Tuesday for the rest of the season. We'll see. Okay. Well, I will thank you very much, JP, for coming on and helping us out in a pinch since we obviously lost some panelists. And Jack, thank you so much. Any closing remarks from either of you that you wanna throw out there?
Yeah. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Well
done, Jack. We made it.
We made it. Although I got one more task to do.